It's a very real threat, and not just you know, the slurs and the epithets and the intimidation that may be verbal, but I mean, we can track the timeline on violence against the LGBT community up until this last year, but most notably in things like the Pulse nightclub shooting. Again, not abstract at all, very real, so naturally very scary. And I think the only way to deal with this is twofold. Places like this, regrettably, need to continue to harden, need to continue to have a very muscular peace officer presence. I mean, I think not naive to suggest that wouldn't A, make people feel more comfortable, and B, if something bad were to happen, allow for very quick interdiction, right, by trained peace officers. That is one element to it. The other element is to work with DPD to really set up a perimeter here, so that they have an active presence on days of worship, especially where you have lots of people congregating in one place. The risk to mass casualty, to mass violence, is higher, and people look, the type of rhetoric that you hear from state and federal politicians right now, you can draw a straight line from that to violence against marginalized community, people of color, the LGBTQ community. You can just draw a straight line. We saw evidence of it in what feels like recent memory, where you had a white supremacist who was emboldened by the invasion narrative, drove from Allen, Texas to El Paso and gunned down 30 people at a Walmart because he was really motivated by this sort of anti-invasion screed that some of our politicians relish in. And so we're feeling it all around. We had the head of the Department of Public Safety, Colonel McCraw, testify before the legislature, and we asked him, you know, what is the greatest threat that we experience as a state? Is it, you know, obviously our governor believes it's immigration. We spent, I don't know, like $6 billion already, maybe even more, on different iterations of Operation Lone Star. But Colonel McCraw said definitively that the number one threat is actually fringe, right-wing, militant groups, right? He said that unequivocally. And so even before COVID, when I chaired the Mexican American Legislative Caucus, and on the heels of what we saw in El Paso, along with the Black Caucus and the Democratic Caucus, we sent a letter to the governor asking him to really redouble the efforts and focus the efforts of DPS on that very immediate threat. Not surprisingly, we didn't see a pivot from Operation Lone Star to that threat that we see on a regular basis. That said, if it is the desire of this community to have more state troopers available, that's something that we could try to rally the Dallas delegation on. I know that when the mayor wanted more state troopers in South Dallas, I know the governor was happy to oblige. I'm sure if a group of state legislators, along with council people and others, asked for an enhanced state trooper presence in this area, we might be able to work on something like that. But I would not want to be presumptuous in suggesting that is the solution, because the community has to want it and want that presence here.
Thank you.
You bet.